All right, guys, in today's video, we're gonna talk about how and when to throw your right wrist during your downswing. Now, your right wrist during your downswing is gonna mainly control two things we all want. Number one is your ability to compress the golf ball, so solid contact. And number two is gonna be the distance you hit it. So having your right wrist bent the right amount at the right time is gonna help you hit the ball more solid and farther. Now there's three ways and kind of three times that you can throw your right wrist that we see. You can throw your right wrist too early. You can throw your right wrist at just the right time. Or you can throw your right wrist too late. I'm gonna show you each one of those, and before we dive into that, I'm gonna show you how you can use this precision impact training aid that I love. But first, before we do that, I want you to take a look at one of our recent CogornoGolf.com members, Brian, and how his swing has transformed by using this and learning how to keep the right wrist more bent back. Okay, here we can see one of our members, Brian, that I'm working with on learning to keep the right wrist more bent back. You can see he's got the precision impact trainer on here. And here on the bottom was the original swings. So we can see as he gets down to and through impact, how much that right wrist is throwing. You see his right hand actually starts to come off the club. The shaft starts passing the lead arm too quickly. You see lots of throwing motion. That's going to compromise his ability to compress the ball. It's also going to add loft. So he's going to hit the ball not as solid and not as far. Now, here's the new one with us working on the trail wrist staying more bent back. Look at the difference of him working through impact. See how the right wrist stays bent back? Look at the difference through the hit here. Look how good that is. So now he's able to keep the right wrist still bent back at impact. And with the training, we actually keep it bent back through impact. So you can see some of the differences of his impact position now compared to his impact position before. So look at the right wrist much more bent back on the top, much more thrown on the bottom. Look at the difference in the left wrist, how the lead arm's still in front of the shaft compared to at the bottom, that lead arm's behind the shaft. And as we start to take that through impact there, you see how the shaft is way past the arm versus it being more in a straight line over the left leg. And we'll start to just see a continuation of the differences there. Look how much more stable that is. We want the shaft pointing right back at you at 45 versus behind you. And so you can see a lot of differences there in how stable that releases. Let me show you how you can do that for yourself. Okay, so I want to show you the three different times that you can throw the right wrist and the consequences of each one of them. We have angle of attack, dynamic loft, low point, and carry. Now I'm going to try my best to keep the swing speed the same, but as you'll see, when you throw too early, your brain doesn't let you swing all that fast, but I'll do my best to keep the speed the same. So swing number one, I'm going to do what we would call the early throw. And that's essentially the angle between my right wrist and my forearm, right? Let's say bent back towards extension, me losing that angle too soon. Knuckles getting farther away from my forearm and actually throwing the club head too early. Now what that's going to do when I do it too early is that's going to have too much loft at impact. So I'm turning a 7-iron into a 9-iron with my shaft too far back. This should have a shallower angle of attack than normal, a higher dynamic loft than normal, a low point more behind, and shorter distance. Now these numbers on the screen here, if we can show them, that was my stock 7-iron I just hit. So 3.1 down with the angle of attack, 21 with the dynamic loft, low point ahead, 175. So watch the differences compared to my normal, which that's going to be like our stock one, compared to me throwing this too early. And I'm going to try and keep the speed up as I do this. So I'm going to purposely try and do what I see all the time, which is throw that right wrist too soon. Okay, that felt like I threw it about as much as I could. There we go. So, and this is exactly what I would see based on my normal pattern with this. The angle of attack got much more shallow. And I see this a lot when people come in and they say, hey, my angle of attack, is already too shallow. Well, it's shallow because the club head's getting too close to the ground too soon because I'm throwing my wrist angles. It's not shallow in the way we want to shallow, which is like the actual angle of the shaft being shallow. It's shallow in terms of this angle from face on with too much throwing. My dynamic loft went up 6 degrees, right? I lost 15, 16 yards there compared to my normal. And my low point moved behind the ball. Do you see the effects that have? Compared to my normal, the club got shallower, so no divot, right? I added loft, so I turned that into, that's probably my 9-iron loft at impact. My low point went behind the ball, so fats and thins, and I hit the ball 15 to 20 yards shorter. With me, the same person lost like 2 clubs of distance compared to my normal. Now I'll do my normal. Let's say this would be option number 2, which is the correct amount of throw, the correct timing of the throw. And how I define the correct timing of the throw is by the time we get to impact, the right wrist is still slightly bent back, the left wrist is flat, and the hands are over the leg. That'd be like the correct timing. Too early would be the right wrist is flat, the shaft straight up and down, or the hands are behind the ball. Correct timing is slight amount of bend in the right wrist, hands forward. And I'll show you how to use that training tool in a moment to do that. But let me show you the difference now. I'll try and keep my speed the same. With the correct right wrist. So that just felt like a stock swing there to me. Okay, so 175. Now again, maybe I'm able to swing a little bit faster when I do that, but let's assume it's close to the same. That's 20 yards farther. Same club, same me, same everything. 20 yards farther by just controlling my right wrist bend. Notice my angle of attack went down a little bit more. So now I'm able to take a divot, right? The club head's able to work down into the golf ball. My dynamic loft is lower by 7 degrees, right? So that's over 2 clubs of difference at impact, the shaft lean. My low point went from behind the ball to now 4 ahead. That means ball first, ground second, and then I hit it, obviously, a lot farther. Now, the players I work with typically shoot between 75 and 100, right? That's the player I'm working with. They want to hit the ball more solid. Maybe you want to get better direction, but you just want to hit the ball more solid, be more consistent when you go play. So with that said, I see a lot of the same swings in that zone. 95% of the players I see throw too soon, and we're trying to get them to normal. But out there in the world somewhere, there is 1 out of 100 people I see. Okay, I don't see them very often, but every once in a while, you can have the third option, which is you throw too late. And what that would look like at impact is that the shaft's too far forward, the right wrist is too bent, the ball goes too low, okay, compared to normal. The low point's gonna be too far ahead. So I'm gonna show you that, but that's more of, what is that, like a great white buffalo type of thing? You're not seeing this too often. But if this is for you, this would be the third option, and that's like this is like too late of a throw. Okay, this is what most of us want to aspire to. Let's see if I can do that version. So that would be like considered too late of a throw. So you see the differences there. My low point went all the way down to 17 point, or my dynamic loft went all the way down to 17.8. So I'm like taking so much loft off of that I'm not able to get the ball to carry high enough. Okay, so it's cool because it goes farther than normal, which is nice, but I hit the ball so low and I'm gonna have some contact issues. So we wanna live in the medium zone, okay? There's a point we wanna get, which are those impact alignments. What I wanna be able to see is just a little bit of right wrist bend at impact, hands over the leg. Let's do one more stock one, then I'll show you how to practice this. Okay, so there's more of my stock shot, normal angle of attack, low point in the low, dynamic loft in the low 20s, low point ahead, solid carry distance. Now, assuming you're more like the 95% that I see, let me show you how you train that right wrist. So if you want to be able to have the right wrist bent back, if you want more compression and more distance like Brian, like I showed you, this is the Precision Impact Pro. We'll put all of the details in the description down below. This is my favorite way to train in that right wrist. You saw how good it worked there with Brian. So when you pop this on here, and there's a code down there, you get about 20 bucks off. Would highly, highly recommend you grab one of these. If you're not hitting the ball as solid or as consistent as you want, obviously you can see this is key. Now what this does when you put this on is as you crank this thing back, it locks your right wrist into place, which keeps it bent back at impact. As mentioned, 90+% throw too soon based on the players that I see, which means there's a 90% chance this would be good for you, okay, that you would have your right wrist more bent. Now, if anything, what this would do is have your right wrist potentially too bent at impact. You would be like the great white buffalo. You would be hitting the ball so solid and so far. That'd be a good way to train, and then you can always back your way into neutral. So I love this on the way back. What I like to do is get this clicking to the point where it's like 90% of the way there, and then just get that extra click or two in transition. Now my wrist is as far bent back as I can get it, and I'm gonna feel as though I transport that into and through impact, right? So a slight exaggeration on purpose, which is what we need. And what's so cool about it, like I've talked about in previous videos, it has that little ball in there. So I actually am able to start in a normal position and I can actually go up and down, which is so clutch. Any of the other right wrist trainers I had was never able to do that. That's why I love this. So normal setup. I'm gonna feel like I bend it almost all the way back, then just a touch more in transition. And there we can see, obviously, right, the proof's always going to be in the pudding with this. My dynamic loft is down to 20.7. Okay, so that's like me taking my 7-iron and turning that thing down. I hit that 171 yards, almost my full distance, with probably 80% of a swing. And that's what I'm looking to do with this. It's like an 80% swing that I can get those impact alignments. I'm looking to feel like that right wrist bends back on the way back, a little bit more in transition, and that stays bent back. Hands get inside left thigh. And then normally I'd have that thing releasing out here, but what I love about this is this just keeps it bent back. And you can learn how to make swings with this. Let's do one more just for good measure. So easy to use. The reviews you guys have given me on this has been awesome. Like I said in previous videos, I've tested this for months and months and months, and it works very, very good. Right wrist bent back, stays bent back. That's gonna be a little bit left, but the same sort of sensations. Look how solid that is. Look how far I hit that. Low point ahead, angle of attack solid. So I absolutely love this. We'll put the link in the description down below. As mentioned, if you're watching these videos, if you're looking for solidness of contact, 90% of the players I work with, right wrist is throwing too early, okay? So love this. You have a little coupon code down there for that. If you're still struggling with your swing beyond that, CogornoGolf.com. We'll put the link down below. If you have any questions about right wrist, anything golf swing related, just want to chat more, would like to keep the conversation going in the comments down below. If you did enjoy this video, consider liking it for us, maybe sharing with one of your friends, and or clicking the subscribe button really helps us out. Appreciate you guys all watching.